Welcome into the Real Domino Pod. Finally, I've got this thing off the ground. I've been waiting to do this for years. So much in the making, but we are finally live and ready to go. And I knew there couldn't be a first episode without my buddy here. To say he's the greatest domino player that ever lived, I mean, some people can call that debatable. It's a fact for me. I'm sure he might agree with me. And quite honestly, I couldn't have a first episode. No, every episode won't be about dominoes, but Domino's has been such a part of my life for the better part of 25 years. The first episode had to be this guy, the man, the myth, the legend. It's overused, but in this case, it's quite appropriate. Jerome Wooten, how are you, my friend?
You know I'm good, man. What's going on with you?
I actually stole something you've said ever since I've known this guy since I was 9 years old, and I don't want to age myself, but that was a long time ago. And since then, since 1999, when I met you, every time I've ever asked you that, your response 100% of the time has been, I'm always good.
I'm always good.
Are you actually always good, or is that just a response?
No, I'm always good. You know what made me say that?
What's that?
Well, first of all, you know I'm a Christian, but I've always had a positive outlook that someone is always worse off than me.
Right.
So for me to complain about anything would be kind of disrespectful to God and how good he's been to me. So that's why I say I'm always good. Because I guarantee you in a cancer center switch places with me, no matter how bad I'm doing out here.
100%.
They'll switch places with me in a heartbeat. So I'm always good.
Yeah, you know, that has been that's been kind of a tough thing for me over the years too. And it really is a humbling experience as you get older when you start meeting people who actually do have it worse off than you. And it really just does make you appreciate the finer things. But don't want to dwell on the negative part too much. Man, how you been? It's been a while.
I've been good, man.
Yeah.
Been good. Just out here struggling. You know how I do.
Out here being Kansas City still, right?
Yeah, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. Gotta say Missouri. They be tripping with the Kansas, Missouri thing. We beef at all times.
Yeah. What's that about anyway? Is it actually as brutal and violent as people think?
No, it ain't violent at all. It's just it's more like a fun, a love-hate type of thing.
Yeah.
The funny thing about, I'm originally from Chicago, so
right.
But I've been here 30-something years, so you might as well say I'm from Kansas City. But the Kansas guys only mess with Missouri girls in the Missouri guys. They act like they just hate us over here.
A weird kind of cross. Yeah, that is weird. I wanted to ask you about. Okay, so I mean, let's just get right into it. I have so many questions for you because, like, we both have talked about this for so many years. We've had countless conversations of, man, Chris, one day we're gonna make it, man. I don't know when it's gonna be. One day we're gonna make it, and I'm not saying I've made it, but I mean, it certainly feels like it, given that I've finally got this thing off the ground. I've got so many things planned. Like, it's going to be the best year ever by far, and it's not even close. Maybe it's finally our time, man. What do you think?
Hey, man, I don't know if it's it, but it's coming. I know it's coming, man. I'm like, for y'all that don't know, Chris is like my little brother. And so
they should be able to tell the family resemblance.
Like you said, we've been talking about this and all this, and Chris has that drive. I don't have that drive, but Chris have that drive. And when he want to make something happen, he's gonna make it happen. Now it might take him a while, but he gonna make it happen.
So. Yeah, that's the thing. I was blessed with two separate blessings and curses. I've got the drive, but I've also got this insane ability to procrastinate and put things off, which kind of sounds counterintuitive, but I promise you it makes sense. Yeah. But whatever the case. So, okay. I know that's not pasta. I know it's pasta, but every time I look at it, I'm thinking like spaghetti. So tell me what you actually have down there as your name.
The pasta, aka Jerome Wooten. We have a podcast also called the Pasta in the Center, where we talk about just about anything. So I'm the pastor, and then my co-host Shannon is the center. She's a female. She's a real senator.
And you can find that on YouTube. Is it at the Pasta in the Center? How do you find it?
Yes, at the Pasta in the Center. Yep. Or on Facebook at the Pasta in the Center. Yep.
I'll put a link to that when we're done here. I'll definitely put a link to that both in the description and live on the screen. All right. So you brought up Chicago. I want to touch on that because we actually haven't talked much about your childhood and growing up. Now, obviously, I know the transition from Chicago to Kansas City, but growing up, what was your childhood like in Chicago?
Chicago? Man, in Chicago, I was on the west side of Chicago. And in Chicago, you have to grow up fast, man. So when I was like 4 or 5 years old, I was catching the transit by myself. My mom got me on there. She taught me you sit in the first seat, let the bus driver know where you're going, what stop you want to get off at, pay attention to where you're going, things like that. So I always tell my wife, she always talk about like, you really from Kansas City. And I'm like, man, listen, 9 years in Chicago is like an adult here in Kansas City. So it was cool to me though. I was the baby of the family of 4. And so it was cool, man. It was cool. I have a lot of family up there. We got a big family. So I had a real good 9 years while I was there.
And you still have family there, right?
Yeah. Matter of fact, we're going back there in 2 days to go. My mom's going to have a birthday cruise there for her birthday this weekend.
That's awesome. When did you make the move to Kansas City?
1985.
Okay.
Right after the Bears won.
You had enough?
Yeah. I've done my job.
The city, yeah. the city,
hey, you know
the city
funny,
went
man?
Crazy. Yeah.
Hey, when we the Bears won and then we left, and when we got here, then the Royals won here, and neither one has won since.
The Royals got one, and
they
then
got one not too long ago,
and then finally the Chiefs got theirs, and well, they've got 2 now. I guess now the Chiefs are.
No, I'm talking about the Bears hadn't won since.
Oh, the Bears! Oh no, you got that one dead right. Well, I'll tell you what, they might have finally find themselves in the right direction, but I have had a good bit of fun over the years bantering with my friends about how bad the Bears have been. Even though I still consider myself somewhat of a fan of Chicago sports, I'm still a Saints fan at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, we know that.
So when did Domino's come into play? Now, is this when you were a kid in Chicago, or is this when you are in Kansas City?
No, I was a kid. I was a teenager in Kansas City. I went to Omaha. My brother's like 7 years older than me, so I think I was maybe 15 and 14, somewhere around there. And I went down there for the summer and hung with him, and we would go play basketball a lot. But when we come back home to his house, him and the fellas would play dominoes. And so I'd just be sitting there with nothing to do because they play for hours. And so they were playing, the loser had to do push-ups. And so, hell, I got tired of watching, so I started playing with them finally, and I was doing push-ups. So
that's how you got strong.
Yeah, that's what they always say. That's what they always tease me and say.
I love it. I never had the push-ups as a punishment. We did have some interesting stuff growing up. For me personally, I remember my grandpa getting me into the game when I was 7 years old because I was always pretty good with numbers, and he thought that it would be kind of a natural transition. Well, if you're good with you're good with numbers and speed math and things like that, you should fit right in. And my grandpa had played, but very recreationally in terms of family and friends and things like that. I picked it up about as quickly as possible. Obviously, in terms of deeper tactics, it took a little bit longer, but in terms of basic concepts and a couple tricks, if you like, I picked that up fairly quickly. Did it take you long, or was it kind of a natural thing?
It's kind of a natural thing, kind of like you. I think, man, you're pretty similar in a lot of ways when it comes to like that and intellect and things like that. So yeah, I picked it up real fast. And then when I got back home from from Omaha that summer, the guys in the hood were playing for money. They had started playing dominoes for money. And, I gamble a lot. So I'm like, oh, hell, now I really got to learn how to play. And so, shit, I was good. I was good right off the flip.
That actually took me a while. I don't remember the first time I ever played for money. I remember, when it started to get a little bit more serious, in the PDA years, which we'll get to here in just a bit. But you got that's going from, the PDA was 06 and I started playing in 98, but I was also like a child. So it's a little bit different, and Travis for the longest time, not just Travis, but Travis was a pretty key influence in terms of Travis would sponsor you to go play some of these tournaments around the country, right?
Yeah. Him and Bob. Yeah. Him and Bob would, all right. So when I played with them in the tournament, they took a liking upon me. So they started having me go down to the place called the Green Duck down here in Kansas City, where they played every day in the evenings.
I still have not been lucky enough to play at this Green Duck. The few times I've visited Kansas City, we could never find a game at the Green Duck. It's so upsetting.
Yeah, now they closed.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, they started taking me, and also throw this part in. They gave me a job. They were real estate appraiser and real estate agents. And they own a real estate company and a real estate appraising company. So they gave me a job. And so they start taking me traveling with them to all these different tournaments. And back then we would go at least probably 6 to 10 tournaments across the country.
Now, that's what I was going to ask. Where all were these? Because we're talking back in like late 90s, early 2000s, where there wasn't a big circuit. So where all would you go?
There would be some in Oklahoma, some in Arkansas, some in the one in Hallettsville. We went to the Texas State Championship. There would probably be a few in Texas. So yeah, they were trying. We went to matter of fact, my very first one I ever won was Lula, Mississippi at the Ala Capri Casino.
Luling, get in there. Shout out to what did you say, Luling or Lula?
Lula.
Shout out to all our loyal viewers in Lula, Mississippi. Your name is finally on the map. I was going to ask you about your first win, actually. So I never knew that that's where it was. Is that one that's? I mean, I remember my first win like it was. I mean, it was one of the best days of my life. Is that one that sticks out, or is that just kind of one of those you put on the shelf?
It stuck out because I beat Harold Mahler, and we had to beat him twice.
Right.
It was Harold Mahler and Johnny Jones. Remember Johnny Jones?
I remember Johnny Jones. Yes.
You know he's from here, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah, John Jones lives here. He still lives here.
Okay.
And so yeah, and what makes it so great, man. I was playing. You remember Lee Earls, right?
Lee Earls, yes, rest in peace.
The old guy Lee Earls. I think he just passed. Matter of fact,
a couple. I think he passed in the middle of 22. It was right in the middle of COVID. I remember.
Okay, well, he had a brother look just like him named Randolph.
Yeah.
Randolph hated Harold Mahler, and Randolph was my partner.
Right.
And man, when we beat Harold Mahler, man, he screamed and beat that mother, and all that stuff.
Yes, I do.
Man, and he was rich. So, Randolph's rich.
Right.
And the man told me anything I want. Don't ever hesitate to ask him.
For the rest of time.
Yeah, for the rest of my life, for his life. So that's actually what stood out to me the most.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it really wasn't a lot of money. And that's all I did it for, actually. And so it was such a big win for him that it was like, okay.
It's funny that you bring up Harold. I want to talk about Harold a little bit real quick because, I brought up how I think you're the greatest of all time. If there is an argument, there are a few that will be in that conversation, but Harold Mahler is one of them. Thoughts and memories of Harold. I know you tell a famous story of how Harold would just never give you any credit. Talk about that. And then obviously any other memories you have of Harold as well.
Yeah. When people actually ask me, hey man, is there anybody you say was better than you? I always say Harold was better than me in partners. Harold would think of every outcome possible and make the best play almost every time when it comes to partners and head up, basically. Now he couldn't outthink me and head up. So I always frustrate him and beat him in head up. But man, that man was a genius with them dominoes, man. And like I said, he never could beat me head up. And what really stood out about me with Harold, me beating him and he flipping over the table and throwing dominoes.
Like a child.
Yeah. And there were so many guys that didn't like Harold. And when I beat him, they would always celebrate. And I think I gained most people respect from beating Harold because they just loved that I beat him. I guess they probably had problems beating him. So anybody that beat him, especially consistently like I did head up, they loved that boy, and they just took a liking to me.
Well, and that's the thing, because for the most part, he and James Morgan, there are a couple of names I can throw out there, but they kind of ruled the domino world for a little while there, especially Harold. And that was his. Some people think, well, if you're good at head up, you're going to be good at partners. That's not always the case. And Harold was one of those rare breeds that was not only good at both, but he was just legendary and lethal at both. You said it yourself. He would think of every outcome possible. I wonder if your speed was a factor in terms of, because some people can talk about reaction time, how long it takes to make a play. Do you think that was a big deal? Because you've always been known to play pretty fast.
Yeah. And that's actually my main, let me say the thing that affects my game the most, the advantage I have the most is being able to play fast and knowing what I'm going to play and things of that sort. So just like Harold thinks of every play in partners, That's how my mind works in head up. So that's why it's so easy for me to play fast because I already know what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know how it goes.
That's always been my greatest advantage in head up as well, because you have to find, once you get to a deeper level in playing professionally and with it, at a certain point, for the most part, your opponents are going to be very close in skills as you, and so you have to find a way to throw them off.
Yeah,
And that's when the speed does come into play.
yeah,
It's really interesting about Harold, man. I remember very distinctly the first time I saw Harold win a tournament, because he was playing the finals. I want to say he was playing Tracy Dixon in the finals, and
uh-huh.
it's in Andalusia, and Harold's playing, I mean, lightning quick, and he just made Tracy look silly, and obviously not a lot of people do that, right? And so I remember watching the end of that game, and my jaw is just like, I'm like, and I'm just kind of like looking around, and I'm still a kid at this point, and I remember a couple of people just looking at me, just laughing. They're like, "Oh, now he gets it." But he had that effect on so many people because
Yeah,
he was just that good. I remember actually Harold's last. I don't remember the year. I mean, I could look it up because it was he actually died the next day, which is just unbelievable to think about. I guess Harold was in poor health, and you know how it
mhm,
is when we go to these tournaments, we play in the hotels the night before and all
yeah,
that sort of thing. So there's a partner's game, and Harold jumps in. He passes bogus multiple times. He makes about, just the worst plays, and we're kind of like, what's going on?
yeah.
Harold died either that night or the next day.
It was that night.
Yeah. And it was just one of those, you talk about shaking the world up, because they announced that, over the loudspeaker at the tournament the next day. And I mean, it just was almost like a gray cloud. I mean, you're talking about, uh, I hate to use the term Michael Jordan, but like that's kind of what it was, right?
Yep. If you don't want to use Michael Jordan, you got to at least use Bill Russell.
Yeah.
He's one
That's
of
a
them.
great
Whichever
comparison.
ones that are greats you gonna say, he one of them.
Yeah, for sure. Any other ones that jump out in terms of just ones either that you remember particularly as being your toughest opponents, or just legends of the game?
Dale Barnes. Whenever I say there's anybody that compete with me, I wouldn't say he's better than me, but I wouldn't
Got to
say I
be
was better
careful,
than him
yeah.
either.
Right. I remember I remember a few matches with you and Dale, but that was when Dale was kind of in his later years. He
Yeah.
was in his scooter, whatever. He had the oxygen tank on, and I don't know how Dale was in his heyday, but you do. So tell me a little bit about Dale.
Well, I didn't get him. Well, I guess I did kind of find out a little bit about in his heyday. But yeah, man, Dale was cold, boy. And what made Dale so cold? The only reason I would say he's good as me because I could still outplay him, but he was a cheater. Dale was the coldest cheater I ever seen.
We're not trying to get sued for slander or libel on our first episode, but no, go on, go on.
Man, listen, that man got some tricks, man. Hey, man, I always tell this story. He got me with the slickest thing I ever seen. So we playing, right? And he's shaking the dominoes. He's shaking them real slow. So he made double five flip over, but I'm thinking it's an accident. So then he flips it back over and just barely shakes it a little bit and leave the dominoes alone. And so I pulls the double where the double five is. I had all seven doubles. He had put all seven doubles where that double five was to make me pull.
That's a special kind of trick.
Oh yeah, that was so slick. I just laughed at him. I said, "Boy, that was a good one."
Yeah. At some point, you just got to tip your hat and say,
Oh
"Well
yeah,
played."
oh yeah, oh
I
yeah.
do.
Hey, man, but the man, as far as playing, oh the man was cold, man.
See, and that's the thing about a player like Dale and a couple other players that I won't name directly, but you know exactly who I'm talking about, where they're such good players that don't need to do that type of nonsense. And so we've seen this over the years affect their game so much that they become worse players because they're so focused on cheating rather than just playing the simple game.
Oh yeah, we know who you're talking about. You
Yeah,
want
we
me to
know.
name them? I
Huh?
like to name them.
All right.
The
I will
one we
allow.
talking about don't mind being named now.
Go ahead. I'll allow you to name
Mark
whoever you
Jackson.
want.
We know we're talking about Mark. That's
We
actually he's
yeah.
the guy that told me about Dale. He even said me and him say Dale is the best player we've ever seen. I think Dale was even better than because of that reason. Dale was better than Harold Marlin. I think Harold probably won so many because they feared Harold.
Harold, a lot of people. Well, I can relate this to you as well because I've seen so many people sit down at the table with you, and you see that they have lost the game before the
Before
dominoes
they
are
sit
even
down.
shuffled.
Yep.
and it's an unbelievable. And I've seen it. This isn't tooting my own horn. I've seen that with me as well in some cases. Not as many because it took me a while to establish more credibility in terms of actually winning tournaments. But in terms of people knew I was going to bring it, they knew what kind of player I was. They knew I was fast. When you see that fear in their eyes, it's such an amazing feeling because you just know.
Oh yeah,
the game's already over.
Yeah.
I want to touch a little bit more on cheating before I let that go because people ask me all the time, why don't you really play much anymore? And because I haven't played competitive dominoes in almost 2 years now. And that was a big part of it. Quite honestly, I got just sick and tired of trying to keep up with all of it and trying to figure out who's signaling who and this and that because it's always been a part of the game. It's never going to go away. I mean, it goes on in a lot. Anything that you're playing for money or, competitive, really just any sort of competitiveness, but especially when there's such prestige and bragging rights on the line, some form of cheating is usually going to go on. Does anything stick out in terms of like the worst things you've seen or some stupid tricks that you just kind of laughed at or you don't have to name the cheaters, but you can tell me like where it happened, I guess, or whatever you want to say.
Oh yeah, we got some cheat. We got a guy here, man, I played with. And he would hold out a whole hand. One time, it depends on who you're playing. If you're playing a person that's so green they don't even know that there's a such thing as cheating, they really take advantage of them. Man, this guy held out all the fives, and it's his down, and he got maybe it went all seven, but it was like 5 or 6 of them. But he got 5 or 6 fives in his hand while the guy's shaking the rest of the dominoes. And so when he pulled his hand, he just pulled. And he kept doing it though.
Yeah, I won't name the person. You can if you want, but we both know who it is. It was in Andalusia about 8 to 10 years ago. So apparently these dominoes were slightly they're all white dominoes, but they're slightly more white than the others.
Yeah.
He goes and pulls all the fives from the other table, puts those dominoes on this table, and still lost the game.
I don't know who that was.
Oh, I'll tell you off stream. I don't want to say
who
here, but he absolutely lost, and he's got a little bit of a reputation from what I've heard. But whatever the case is, the fact that he lost.
Who you talking about? If you talking about he got a reputation,
yeah,
is he always having problems down there?
He's had a few.
I was talking about my guy with the thick mustache.
Oh no, goodness gracious! I need another show to do on him. I've got hours of stories on that guy. He's actually had physical problems. That's the thing. I can't say that because he hasn't had physical problems. He's done a lot of this, but I've never actually seen him get in a scuffle with anybody. I've seen it come close.
Yeah, he come close to every tournament. Almost.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter who you are. I've seen him almost get in a scuffle with an 8-year-old child, and at that point, you just. I don't know.
You know what? I'm glad his kids didn't take after him in that.
You know what? Most of his kids, the oldest one did have a little bit of an attitude, but for the most part, yeah, the younger ones were fine. They seemed like decent, and it was just kind of like, how, where, I don't know. Peak moment in dominoes. I'm not a huge fan all the time of asking, like if you ask a wrestler what his favorite match was, it's such a simple question, but you have such a long career. Obviously, the first tournament win's going to stick out. I know about the wins in Andalusia. Is there one where you just remember like it was yesterday and you're like, man, take me back to that moment because it was so amazing?
It would have to be, and I got a testimony about this one. I don't know if I got time to tell on him, but it would have to be when me and Bob.
We got all the time in the world. Go ahead.
Okay, so when me and Bob won the partners tournament. So let me explain how this went. So I'm very close with God, right? So a lot of times, believe it or not, like the Holy Spirit come to me and let me know when I'm going to win tournaments or lose tournaments and stuff. So this particular time I prayed. Bob was broke at the time. Now Bob used to be a millionaire. And this happened. He got broke within a couple years. So Bob was broke at the time. And matter of fact, he said, all right, Jerome, if you win, he said, when you win the fight, when you win head up, I'm going to need you to loan me some money when we get back home. So as a matter of fact, this is the year I won both. So it makes it even more the reason why it sticks out.
And your opponent in the head up was also one of the opponents in the partners one as well, if I remember correctly. That was Pat Hinkie. Yeah.
Is that right?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. So that's even better. So anyway,
Shout out to Pat Hinkie, very good guy.
yeah. Pat Hank's a pretty cool cat.
Yeah.
So I made it to the finals on Friday. And so for those of you that don't know, in the World Championship now, when you make it to the finals, you play the tournaments on Friday, but you play the finals on Saturday, the same day you play the partners in the partners finals.
2-day
So
tournament, yeah.
I had already placed to the finals. So Bob said he had already said about the loan and the money thing. So when I was going to sleep that night, and I hardly ever pray at night. I pray a lot of times during the day, but I hardly ever pray before I go to sleep. But that night, I actually prayed before I went to sleep, and I asked God to bless Bob to be my partner. And so, for those of you who don't know, in Andalusia, for partners, we pull kind of like bingo balls out of a barrel, a big barrel.
The judge, his name is Will Matthews, calls it the most crucial 2 minutes of the weekend.
And so whoever your number matches up with is your partner. So you don't know who's going to be your partner. So that night I prayed that Bob would be my partner, so Bob can win his own money. Not that I wouldn't loan it to him, but so that he can win, he'll have more, because he only wanted like 500 or 800 from me or something. And the partners, he'll win his own 1,500. So I told Bob about it the next morning when we was at breakfast. We always eat breakfast. You know, we're gonna have to talk about Andalusian one of these times so people can get a feel. So
right.
But anyway, so at breakfast, I told Bob, I said, well, Bob, I prayed that you be my partner today. And he's like, all right. And he got all excited, you know, not thinking we're gonna be partners for real. You know how Bob is. He was so he's like, all right, we're gonna win some money today. So we had breakfast and everything. So we goes and we're at the tournament. We pick our balls or whatever. Now I think I waited to the end because I'm normally playing somebody in head up or something.
Right.
To get the money. So anyway, when I pick my ball, I'm the last one up there. So it said I was partners with Bob. So when Bob don't know I'm his partner, so I go over there and walk over to Bob. He's sitting there, he waiting on his partner. He said, I don't know who my partner is.
Which, by the way, again, there are more, you know, at this point in the tournament, there's more than a couple hundred people. So the chances of him actually pulling Bob is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think, I'm gonna have to check the record on that. I'm gonna see how many people, but yeah, it was a lot of people back then. It was in 2010. So I said, Bob, well, we partners. And he didn't believe me. So I'm like, no. So I show him my envelope that got his, his number on there. And he's like, oh my goodness. So anyway, Chris, when I tell you, Bob was making the worst plays I ever seen in my
No. I thought you were about to say you guys just steamrolled everybody.
Man, we barely made it.
Oh, no. I did not know. We can, yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just using the light ones. Every damn time, man. Listen, we never won two.
Don't worry, we're gonna get to 15, and then we'll have plenty of curses.
Yeah,
anyway, go.
We never won 2 in a row.
Yeah.
So we always went to at least the last game. So, and when I say, man, Bob was making the worst plays. So Bob played bad all the way up until we got to, I think, the one that would win the bracket.
Which, if you win the bracket, you go to the final 8.
Yeah, which is where the money starts.
Right.
Matter of fact, no, we had already made. We ended up winning the bracket, even though he, like I said, he played bad all day. Come to find out later on, his sugar was low. He hadn't taken his medicine, his insulin and stuff. So I'm hollering at an old man. He already old and his sugar's low, but I don't know shit. All I know is he fucking up. So. Yeah. So
and we just crossed into the PG-13 ratings, boys and girls.
No, we really gonna get there on 15.
Yeah, don't worry. I can't wait. It's my favorite story.
Oh, anyway,
go ahead.
To get to the end of the story. So we're in the games right before to make it to the finals. And so we lose the first one, I think, and we struggle to win the second one. So the next one, we got an easy play. Bob needs to play 6 ace on the 6 and turn them aces, and I'm jacking them for the counter, and we gonna, because I think we're losing. So anyway, No. Matter of fact, that was the second game where we almost lost it and ended up not going to be in the final. So that play comes, and boy, I'm stressed. Matter of fact, that's the first time I think I cursed loud in that place to where people actually heard me say some stuff. They never, I never get upset, none of that.
But it won't be the last. But yes,
so, so that time, I mean, everybody looking and everything. So anyway, we finally end up winning that game. So I go to the restroom before we play this final.
Hang on a second. I don't mean to cut you off, but I remember this like it was yesterday because you're right. That one did cost you. Had won the first game. That one cost you the second game because I remember you turning like this and start screaming at everybody around you that's willing to listen. And at that point, I'm sitting there like kind of like trying not to say much, but trying to like just hands behind my back or doing something like this. I see Bob just kind of, you know how Bob is, just rubbing his head like
yeah,
Bob
he just like this.
Yeah, and I remember it like every word that I hadn't heard you say much before is coming out of your mouth, and you just like, come on, and then that's when you were like, I gotta take a breather, and you go off.
So anyway, when I go to the restroom and I'm using the restroom, so the Holy Spirit came to me and it was like, well, if I said you're gonna win the tournament, also God, I forgot about that part. So God did tell me and Bob was gonna win the tournament. When I prayed for him to be my partner, I also prayed for us to win and all this. So God said he would do it. So once he my partner, I should already know that we're gonna win. So while I'm using the restroom, the Spirit came to me and was like, if y'all gonna win the tournament, why are you tripping on what Bob plays? Bob can play anything and y'all gonna win if you trust me that y'all gonna win. So I said, so when I came back to the table, I was a different man, Chris. This was so fun. It was like I was so nice to Bob from there on. So he was still, now listen, he's still fucking up. But at this time, I'm joking about it. I'm like, good fuck up, Bob. Keep up the good play. That's right. Don't start making good plays now. Shit, keep on fucking.
Yeah, it's working.
He was just laughing, talking about I'm so crazy and all this stuff. So anyway, we end up winning, making it to the finals, and end up winning the finals and all that.
The finals was close too, if I remember right. It also went to 3 games because
I think that whole time we never won 2 games, So yeah, that's what stuck out the most about it. That was my favorite win because I got to share it with Bob.
Right.
I won both, which nobody has ever done in the same day. They said. I think I've seen I think Harold might have won both at the same weekend.
Yeah, there's a couple on there. I want to say James Morgan as well.
Yeah, I think James Morgan done it a couple times.
And maybe even 1 or 2 more. But in terms of, like you said, the same day, because it's different than what it used to be.
Yeah. That stood out to me. So all that is that's my favorite. That's my favorite moment in Domino's.
So you brought this up, and I probably should have covered this a little bit earlier. Let's take you the viewer to Andalusia, Alabama. Right now, growing up, this was what I looked forward to every single year. It's the second weekend in July every year. It started in 1976 to celebrate the bicentennial anniversary, and it was a huge thing back then. The age-old story is the Dr. Charles Tomberlin wanted to start the tournament as a way to celebrate. It started off as just a little thing. It quickly blew up. They had Coach Bear Bryant. That's their most famous get. They've had famous people from Alabama. Whatever the case, it used to be a massive, massive thing. Hundreds of people coming to this. But it became kind of like an event for us. I've heard you describe it before as kind of like an all-star game, right? Mm-hmm. We had people from all over the country that we only get to see once a year. We all come in to this small town on the same weekend, and we just make a weekend of it. We're playing dominoes at the hotels the whole time. I know people who stayed up for 48 plus hours. Yeah. And they would never sleep, whether it's dominoes or poker, whatever the case. Take me through what you remember in terms, because we all know it became not as much of a thing we look forward to over the years, but in its heyday, take me through the weekend and whether it's a road trip or a flight, whatever you remember as being the best trip.
Okay. So the best one? That's
what I mean. We just a typical trip, like you said. We would all get breakfast. Obviously, I guess the normal routine of an Andalusia weekend, and how much fun we would have.
I'm gonna tell you my best memory there, but I'm gonna tell that at the end. Now, but just the trip itself. At this point, Chris, I love dominoes, right? This is when I love Domino's.
It's been a while.
Yeah, this is when I love Domino's. It's 98 because I hadn't even been playing 10 years yet. I think I started in like 91, 92. So this in 98 when I first went, I'm thinking I love Domino's. When I left Andalusia, I didn't love Domino's as much as I thought I did. These guys did not sleep. Man, when I first we got there, we drove. We got there at 2:00. There were guys, the lobby full of people playing Domino's.
2:00 p.m. on a Thursday, by the way.
2:00 a.m.
Oh, 2:00 a.m. on a well, it's on a Friday or a Thursday?
Thursday night.
Okay, yeah.
Thursday night. 2:00 a.m. All these old men in there playing Domino's. And they playing for money. They don't play for free down there. So they gambling. So you know that. I'm loving this. Listen, when I tell you these old men played until 6:30 that morning, went upstairs, changed clothes, went over to the huddle house. We all ate and had the tournament start at 8. What was it, 8 or 8:30?
It's 8:30 now. It was either 8:30 or 9 back then. Either way, it's early.
It was 8 something. I know that.
8:30.
So these guys played to 6:30. Matter of fact, that's the night Travis and Mark played them for $400 a game. Went over there, ate, went to the tournament. After the tournament, we go back to the room. They did the exact same thing. Played all night till 6:30 in the morning. And did the entire weekend. These guys didn't sleep. They played dominoes. I said, hell, I don't love dominoes that much. I went to that. Matter of fact, every night before I went to bed, that's what I said. I said, hell, I don't love dominoes this much. I'm going to bed.
It's just a new level of crazy. And, you know, these guys don't drink any Red Bulls. It's just absolute pure stamina and adrenaline. And I don't know how they can do it because I can't do it now or never really could for that long.
Me, and it's not like they got tired and made bad plays. They had the same energy all day, all night.
To be fair, they were probably making bad plays whether they were tired or not. We know the crew that we're talking about. So, but no, I mean, just try to imagine you walk into a hotel lobby and you see just dozens of people just on every single table all day, all night, nonstop. It was just madness.
And how many hotels were back then?
So back then it was Days Inn, it was Best Western, and maybe one or two more. That's what I really wonder because there weren't a lot of hotels, and we know how many there are now, and they fill up now. But my point being, if there were so many people back then, where did everybody stay? Because there just didn't seem to be like there would be room for everybody back then.
Yep, and but what I was going to say, this is not just one hotel that's all this is going on. This is any hotel you walk in. It's dominoes all night and day. Now we go now here, we can't find a game.
I don't even understand that because it's still, some of them are the same clientele, but even you going down there for a domino trip, I guess it's become more of a casual thing now. Now it's more of I guess it's more locals than anything. So it's now if you're the local crowd, you're just kind of for the most part staying wherever you live or hanging out with friends or whatever. There's not, but still, you'd think that we could find some games somewhere, but you're definitely not going to find a game for money, which is shocking to me.
Yeah, that's crazy, but yeah, that's where we're at with it now.
So you said you're going to talk about your favorite memory. What's your favorite memory?
Damn it. What was it? Oh, my favorite memory was, one day, it was after I'd won. It was 1 year after I'd won. And I went into the huddle house. And all the waitress was like, there he is. There he is. They started clapping and everything. That morning, me and you were on the front page of the paper. But hell, we wasn't even there.
Right.
So they had already took our pictures from last year and wrote an article. So if y'all don't know, every year, Chris was in the newspaper. If he won or not, he was in the newspaper. Now, I was in there because I won.
Right.
But every year, so this year, me and Chris on the front page. And that was one of the first times I got treated like a celebrity. It was like all they were screaming, there he is. And I'm like, what the hell they talking? And then they showed me the paper, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, beginning in 2009, it was a random thing. I wore a red suit in 2009, and then every year thereafter, I wore a different color suit. it wasn't intended to be that, but everybody seemed to love it so much. What's he going to wear next year? And so it became just a fun thing I did every year. And so trust me, I wasn't in the paper because of these good looks. It was just for the different color suit. I think my favorite obviously being the full-blown purple and gold LSU suit. That one was slick. I'll give myself a little credit on that. And I just bought a new pair of Gator boots, so that kind of complimented the whole thing, which was nice.
Yeah.
So I want to get to the PDA because that was kind of a special time in both of our lives for different reasons. I was a 16-year-old kid that signed a professional contract, which was, I was over the moon with that, to say the least, because that was just, how many kids can actually say that, right?
That's right.
You were there for most of the tour. I don't even remember. I don't know if it was a 12-stop tour or a 16-stop tour. The PDA is the Professional Domino Association. It was a one-year thing that happened in 2006, I believe, and or at least the final tournament was in 2006. But so it was a 12-stop tour around the country. First place for all of these tournaments was $10,000 cash. And I'm going to leave this one to you because I obviously jumped in at the end, but tell me a little bit of your experiences going around the country with that.
Okay, so when we first started, they had a seeding tournament, so it only paid. All right, first of all, let me get this part. So when Travis first found out, somebody sent Travis an email about this.
Now,
so
did you jump in right at the beginning, or was
it? Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
cool.
So what happened? They was gonna pay $100,000 every 2 weeks. $100,000 at every tournament, cash every 2 weeks. So we go. So they had a seeding tournament because they're gonna do seedings. So they're gonna rank everybody. And so the seeding tournament, when we got there, they told us, all right, well, we're not gonna do 100,000 every tournament. We're gonna do 30,000 cash every tournament. And so the seeding tournament, I think Nate might have won the seeding tournament. But anyway, I finished in 10th. I was in 10th place. And so after that, every 2 weeks, we would meet in a different city. They would have a tournament in a different city in America. And if you're ranked in the top 10, you didn't have to pay. The entry fee was $200, I think.
300.
300?
Yeah.
Okay, entry fee was 300. If you rank in the top 10, you don't have to pay. If you won in the top 10, you didn't have to pay. So if you won this tournament, you placed in the top 10, you didn't have to pay the next one.
Which is just unbelievable.
So the first term, matter of fact, so I must didn't place in the top 10 because I had to, I had to pay the first tournament. But after the first term, I never had to pay again. So, I think I placed like number 12.
Where were the first ones were on the West Coast, or was that in the middle or towards the end?
West Coast.
And it started in LA. And it migrated towards the Central.
So I think it went for like LA, Sacramento. I think the first two were in LA.
Which by the way, if we had to put a place on where the most players are, I would assume it's California, right?
LA, yeah. Matter of fact, mostly all of them. So if it was about 32 of us that were regulars that went to every tournament. And they never got a real big showing, which is crazy for people giving away $30,000 cash. As much as everybody claim they so good.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even here in Kansas City. Now, back then, we had a lot of players. Hell, I don't think 10 Kansas City people showed up.
Well, and that's the thing. I can see we're going to bring up Jay King's name. I don't want to say too much about him. You're more than welcome to if you like. But I bring up his name because he was the founder, the founder and the president of the PDA. His thought, I would assume, was going to have to take a little bit of a loss, but this thing is going to blow up once people see it. We had a deal with ESPN for the final "quote unquote" World Championship to be held in Las Vegas. That was the one I jumped on. The last stop on the tour was Atlanta. That was the one I found because it was the closest one to where I was in Louisiana, other than Dallas, but I didn't know about it at that point. Point being, went to Atlanta, met the right people. It was, I was a 16-year-old kid, whereas everybody was grown adults and all this kind of stuff. It was a cool story at the time, right? Didn't win anything in Atlanta, but I got on board with the right people. Hey, man, you got to come to Vegas. You got to come to Vegas. Got it. Well, so eventually we're on board with the Kansas City Dominators or whatever it was called back then, right?
Yeah.
Sign a contract with Travis. won't speak much about that other than to say it was cool being a part of the team and going to Vegas and that sort of thing. Do you want to talk about the ESPN deal at all? Because you might actually not know the story I'm about to tell, but did ESPN, were they going to do something on you?
I don't know.
So,
No, I don't think they told me that he was.
So ESPN followed me around Las Vegas. They did multiple interviews with me. They did they were ready to do a feature story because I was going to be the quote unquote Tiger Woods of dominoes, right? You see this up and coming kid, obviously, you know, a crazy speed math thing. Like it was a cool thing that ESPN wanted to do. They do a feature on me. It's going to be a huge, I don't know how much it would have blown up, but I would have loved to find out, put it that way. But long story short, Jay King had a bit of a problem with ESPN and the way that they wanted to present it. Jay King wanted to present it a certain way. All of a sudden, we find out that the deal's off and we never hear anything else. Now, that wasn't the only thing that was off because you won this world championship in Vegas over Mark Jackson in the finals, and you've been paid exactly how much? $0.
You know what's funny? When you just sent me the text to come on here,
yeah,
I was on live with Jay King.
No, stop.
Yep, I promise you. It's still showing. It's still on my screen now.
Like on video.
Yeah, he's a DJ at 97.5 somewhere. Probably in LA somewhere.
He's got to be in California. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we'll talk about that. I never had a personal problem with Jay King, and I held bitterness in the sense that I wish that things hadn't gone the way they did, because for myself, I would have loved to have been featured, and you know, who knows what kind of celebrity status, and just the what if is what is always going to kill me, because I just I'll never know. But Jay King was always nice to me, you know. I think go ahead.
Now I did do a couple interviews with ESPN, and actually I was on ESPN. They did feature it. They did show some of the tournament on the Spanish ESPN because some people seen it and told me they saw it.
I never knew that. Wow. Yep. Okay. Interesting.
Yep. Matter of fact, one of my guys, he called me the next morning. He's like, "Hey, I got some guys I want you to play, fool. I just seen you on ESPN." And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "You should have called me. Hell, I ain't seen it." So yeah, exactly. I had a couple people tell me they saw me on there. So that was pretty cool. But I've never had a problem with Jay King. I've never even been mad at him for not. All right, so for y'all that don't know, I won. First of all,
you won Player of the Year for $30,000.
Yeah, I was ranked number one at the end. So the number one player at the end of the year receives $30,000. So the day of the big tournament, I get $30,000. So then I go on to win the big tournament.
Well, you're supposed to get $30,000.
Yes. Well, yeah. So I go on to win the tournament, which was $50,000. So at that end of the tournament, I received a $30,000 check and a $50,000.
I've still got the picture of Jerome holding the big $50,000 check. You know, I mean, it was a picture of you and Jay, like it was, you know, and then we all took a giant picture with all of the Kansas City guys and all that sort of thing. But yeah, no, I still have that.
Is that right? So anyway, whatever happened. I never got my money, whatever the case. But surprisingly, I never was mad at Jay for not paying. I mean, first of all, let's get this put out there. He gave away $30,000 every 2 weeks.
Cash.
That was paid.
Right.
Never short on the money all season long. For 12 tournaments, he paid $30,000, never was short. So, and I think that's one of the main reasons I wasn't mad at him. It's like
you still made a hell of a living,
money.
Yeah, exactly. More
made
so than
a lot of money.
At that point, that's more money than we've seen, right?
Exactly.
Way
more than we've seen. You know, now back then, it's not like money wasn't like it is now. You know, it's so readily for everybody, whatever the case may be. So to even get $100 game back then, hell, I don't think the only time I got $100 game was when I got to the PDA.
Right.
And I was playing the West Coast guys. So other than that, and that was one of another reasons I said I never was mad at him. It's like, because so guys, when we planned these tournaments, after the tournaments, all the tournaments were held at hotels. we would go out into the lobby and play for more money. So
sometimes more than what you made.
Yeah, so I'm making no less than 4,000 every 2 weeks. That's better than any job.
Which again, can't stress enough. This is 2005, 2006. Like,
Yeah,
and so more money than it is today. And like we said, it wasn't like we were having these high-paying college degree jobs. It just wasn't that way.
Yeah, so they have me recorded as winning in the PDA 20,000 in 06, something like that. 168, something like. Anyway, according to them, had I gotten paid, I would have made over 200-something thousand that year in Domino.
And let's also catch you up a little bit, because I know, sorry, this is a lot to unpack, but this is the first year of this thing, whereas we're promised not only another year, but all we're thinking is, man, this is catching on. Like, this thing's going to take off, especially given the fact that ESPN's about to blow it up. Keep in mind, the poker boom had just happened a couple of years prior. And that's only because, I mean, poker was always more lucrative than dominoes. But when ESPN got behind it, bang, to the moon. And so what we're thinking is the sky is the limit for us.
Yeah.
And so not only are we all seeing dollar signs, we're seeing fame, notoriety, we're seeing a whole bunch of stuff, and thinking that it could just be, the next big thing for all of us. So who knows? Again, the what if is the part that kills me. I don't know if that you have, not that it keeps you up at night, but I'm sure it crosses your mind, right?
Yeah, and actually that was what ESPN, when they did my interview, that was the question. They said, so where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? And that year, poker, the World Series of Poker was paying $12 million. It got up $12 million.
I know exactly who won because he lives in Houston now.
And so I said, and it had only been on for like 3 years. So I was like, well, poker has gotten up to 12 million in 3 years. So in 5 years, hell, I said I should win at least 12 million at least.
Exactly.
I said, I know I should have at least 12 million. And so, and I was thinking realistically too. This ain't like I'm just talking shit.
No, of course.
I'm like, shit, I have more than that if it goes as crazy as poker has, but I know I have at least 12 million. So that, I'm like you. It's like we had so many. It's like once we seen this vision, because we actually seen it. It actually was happening.
Right.
All the way up until the point to where's the ESPN and J thing happened.
Again, can't stress enough. Like when the camera's in front of you, ESPN is walking on the strip with me, doing an interview. We're talking like it's just me and you today. Like, and again, I'm trying. I mean, I'm trying to stay humble as a kid, but I'm 16. Like my heart's kind of pounding, thinking like this is the moment I've been waiting for. Like, it's just. It was a fun time, but it was also, very nerve-wracking. And then it didn't take long. I mean, I don't know. I think they still planned on, this is in September. And I think they had still planned on doing, like, the next season of the PDA was supposed to start in October. Like they were this was going to be a quick turnaround. And then things started getting canceled. And then before you know it, all of a sudden it's become like a California tour, which was only paying a couple thousand. Like it wasn't near what it was going to be. And then I think it got canceled mid-season or whatever it was. Do you remember that at all?
No, I went all the way through because I won. I won it that year.
Wait, but it wasn't, it was just in California, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in California. They was only paying 5,000. First place was 3,000. So what happened? I wasn't gonna pay because I still was owed the money.
Right.
So I'm like, well, it don't make sense. Well, people were saying it don't make sense for me to play. I didn't really care. Plus, I had a sponsor. As you said, Travis was my sponsor there. So
it's not costing you anything to go.
Yeah. And so what happened? Nate won the first 3 out of 4 tournaments. And so Nate, like, hey, he's paying cash and all this. He's paying. So I got, once he won that 4th one, I'm like, shit, it don't make sense for me not to go get some of this money. Hell, it ain't just because he owed me don't mean don't go get no more. So that didn't make sense to me.
Exactly.
So I went out and hell, I won like 7 out of 9. Not first place, but I placed in the money 7 out of 9 times. And then I won the big one. And I think the big one only paid, hold on. How much did the big one pay? It didn't pay that much either. I think he paid the exact same thing as the regular ones.
I swear I didn't even know they had a big one in the second season.
And I think I'm trying to think, was it in Vegas? Nah, it was held at the what's called in Cali. What's the name of that casino?
In where, LA or somewhere else?
In LA, in Inglewood.
Hollywood Park.
Hollywood Park. So it was held there. Yeah. So it was only 3,000. I remember that because, and this is another reason I wouldn't be mad at J King. So after I win that one, right, there's this guy that was barred from Hollywood Park Casino called Big Sam.
So I know all about Big Sam.
Big Sam calls me. He was barred because he got into it with the security there.
Right.
So he said, "Hey, you only won because I couldn't come because I'm barred from that casino." So I said, "Okay, well, listen, we can go to my hotel and play for this little 3,000. It was 3,000 I won." I said, "We go to my hotel and play for this little 3,000 since you think you would have won." Big Sam came to my hotel. We played 500 a game. I beat him out of 27,000, which is way more money I ever won at one time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, how can you be mad at a person that made all this possible for you?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's if I would have been mad at J. King, I would have felt like one of these ungrateful kids that you spoil all your life, and as soon as you tell them no, then you the worst parent on earth. You know what I mean?
Right. And of course, there's still something to be said about, of course, still owes you. You wish you'd have gotten paid and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But what became of it? Again, it's a better thing that we could have ever imagined. And without him, none of it would have been possible. That's just the reality of the situation.
And actually, without him, a lot of these tournaments that's going on today still wouldn't have happened.
Correct.
Because a lot of them heard about the PDA and learned from that.
Some of them still use the same chips and dominoes for that.
Yeah. Yep. Some people still use the same chips and dominoes, I'm like you. I always loved J. King. J. King like an older uncle or something, a brother to me. I like J. King. I understood J. King. I think like guys like Travis and Bob, they didn't understand because they not from the hood, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I understood J. King. And what happened with J. King in ESPN, he just cursed him out real bad.
I remember. Trust me. I watched it happen.
Yeah, all that type of stuff. So
let me be very clear also, because I said ESPN was going to do the story. ESPN wouldn't know what my name was if it wasn't for J. King. King coined the phrase "the Tiger Woods of dominoes," told ESPN, "Listen, this is the next thing. This is your guy." So, I mean, I can't say I owe things to J. King because nothing ever came out of it. But I mean, again, it was like I owe that experience, I guess, to J. King, because it was something obviously I remember to this day and always will.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? I've never even called J. King about my money.
I thought you told me you did.
Huh?
You didn't. I thought you told me you did.
No, Travis and them did.
Okay.
I didn't. Yeah, I've never. I mean, I've talked to him about it, but I didn't call him. He called me actually.
Right.
Yeah, like a couple years had passed, and out of nowhere, J. King just called me, like, "Hey, man, I know you don't think I'm gonna pay you, but I'm gonna get you your money." I'm like, "All right, shit."
We all hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I want to end this on a high note. And this is a story that I'll remember forever. I can see this plain as day. I can't hear the number 15 without thinking of this. It's fantastic. What do you remember from that infamous day in Andalusia about 15?
Okay, so I'm playing with this guy, and I guess we're rolling along. Yeah, we doing all right. He's playing okay. He's playing okay. He's one of them players where he makes all right play when you really need him to play it.
And we had played with him and his partner the day before, or against him and his partner, I should say, in the hotel. So we kind of had a little bit of a feel for how he plays anyway.
Now, did me and you play against him?
You and I played against him and his partner, and then I eventually got up, and then you and Bob played him and his partner.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, you drew him as a partner the next day, and it was one of those where it was like, oh, here we go. Like, because he wasn't the greatest, but he wasn't bad, and usuly those are the kind of players that you can carry. But go ahead.
Yeah, and so that's what it was. So he was happy to be my partner then. So he, now I'm getting the story. Okay, so I took him in the bathroom like we do, and I'm like, hey, listen. If you want to win, just follow me. I said, don't Don't put something out there that you don't have and stuff like that. And just follow me. If you don't know what to do, just follow me. So anyway, we get to this crucial moment. And I think we were losing that game, but we got a hand that'll bring us back and win it. So we're shooting fours. We're shooting fours at these guys. So I make a good play. He make a good play. It goes back and forth. And it gets to a point. He can turn this four out. And this motherfucker took 15 and took the four off. So I'm like, oh, so I can't really do all this.
And the game's not over. He takes the count. There's still plays to be made. So
so we're still playing, but I'm pissed off about this goddamn play just made because he's been playing good and we getting bad hands, but we finally got a hand we can catch up. So he takes the damn 15. So anyway, after that, I don't know if it was after we lost. It had to be after we lost.
It was absolutely because your opponents had gotten up from the table. It was after you lost.
Yeah. So anyway, we end up losing. And I say, hey, man, why you didn't shoot the four? And he said, hell, I just figured I'd take my 15 because of some bullshit he said. And I said, man, fuck 15. Don't give a fuck about no 15.
Everyone in the building immediately turns and looks. And it's a big building.
Yeah, this building like 2 blocks long.
Oh my goodness. And I mean, it was just, and it didn't stop. I mean, everyone turns and looks to try to see what's going on. And all of a sudden, I just see Jerome, cutting a wrestling promo on this guy. Back and just continuing.
I see, and y'all have to know, I'm not a loud person. I don't really hardly even talk unless we got some fun guys at table talk stuff. But they never known me to get loud or anything. So, oh man, yeah, he really pissed me off. So man, I said, oh shit, I talked about this shit for probably the rest of the weekend. Probably the rest of the month.
Probably the rest of the decade, if we're being honest. Because after that, every time we were on the phone or anytime we'd talk, we'd bring up 15 because we were going to make T-shirts on it that said, fuck 15. Right.
The funny thing is, the situation always comes up with me or Chris to where we have a moment to say it. Especially in a good moment, we always forget to say it.
Well, and what's funny is, I've had situations before where I'll just be sitting in a crucial moment of the game, or you're late in a domino game. I'll just be sitting and looking, and all of a sudden I'll just start laughing. And nobody knows why except me, because I have a possible 15 count, but I'm not sure if I should take it or not.
I was playing. Hey, listen, that's funny. Me and Chris was playing together. I think we must have been in Houston. We somewhere, man. You was playing together. And I think you threw off a 15 or took a long time to take it.
Right.
I think you took a long time to take it and you finally took it. And I'm like, man, you gonna pass up the money? And you was like, shit, it was 15. Shit.
And you didn't say another thing. You were just like, I'm sorry.
You wanted me to take 15.
I
always still say it, man. Fuck 15.
That's right. I will. I just say it in every day. Like if a shirt costs $15, I immediately don't want that shirt anymore.
Yeah, that's one of the moments y'all had to be there. But yeah, that shit was funny.
Yeah, I've rarely. I mean, obviously that day it wasn't funny, but ever since then, anytime it comes up, it's one of the funnier things I could think of.
That's one of the most memorable days there in Andalusia too.
Yeah, I'd probably say so. Because again, I wish it still had the feeling that it used to have. Because like I said, when I say that we look forward to it every, pretty much all year until the next, I'm not exaggerating. Like the friendships that we've made over the years. And to be fair, listen, I don't mean to criticize Andalusia. Jerome and I would never know each other if it wasn't for Andalusia. I've made so many long-time friendships from down there, met so many great people, been featured on the news and in newspapers and all that sort of thing. But it's just, I wish it still had the same allure that it used to. Obviously, some people have gotten older and passed on. Quite frankly, whether you can call it a criticism or not, the city of Andalusia doesn't take it as seriously as I'd like them to. We go down there, and now all of a sudden, all of the hotels won't let us play in the lobbies anymore, which is just absurd.
Yeah,
They don't really treat us the way that we, I guess, would like to, and so as a result, a lot of people have stopped going. So you hate to see it, but it is what it is. If you're going to be treated like that in some cases, why would you keep going, right? You're spending a lot of money to go down there, not to mention because all these hotels have gone up in prices. Now it's $150 a night to stay in any decent hotel down there, plus the entry fees to the tournament, plus the flight or the road trip or whatever. All of a sudden it becomes where you have to win the tournament just to break even almost.
Yep, that's it.
So, Rome, you got anything you want to plug or wrap this up on?
No, man, just want to say congratulations on your podcast.
Thank you, bud.
I knew it was coming. It's gonna be big. I know you're gonna do something with it.
I sure hope so.
And I'll come on anytime, man. As a matter of fact, send whenever you gonna do the episode, make sure you send it to me and I'll put it on my page. I guess I could plug my page.
Please do.
The Pastor and the Sinner. The Sinner is spelled SINNA.
Yeah, and I'll put it all on the screen when I edit this, and we'll put it in the description as well.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, man.
It'll be cool because I know some of our Domino friends will see this, and maybe we'll have a couple of them on as well.
I'm gonna put it on the Domino pages.
Okay, perfect.
One of them had like 30-some thousand people on there.
Yeah, I'd love that, and I mean, like I said, I'd love to even reconnect with Jay King. I wouldn't want to put him in any sort of serious negative light, and I hope he understands that wasn't what I was trying to do here. Because at the end of the day, I am grateful that he even did that. I got to meet, a bunch of celebrities on that tour, and I really
have to mention too all the celebrities we met.
Yeah, I mean, we met. The ones I remember the most: met Antoine Tanner, met Ken L, met Omar Gooding, met Brian Russell, former basketball player for the Utah Jazz. Yeah. So many of these people that were kind of. I don't want to say they were vital to my childhood by any means, but still, you see them on TV, and it's one of those where, as a 16-year-old, it's really cool to just be there, interact with them. And then once they saw my, speed domino trick, all of a sudden I became the celebrity in Vegas, which was also a pretty cool experience as well.
Yep, and I'm still close friends with Omar Gooden and Antoine Tanner.
I don't know if Omar's the biggest clown I've ever met, like in a positive way. One of the funniest dudes, but he's definitely top few. That's a guy that I would love to share a Hennessy and Coke with. I want to say that was his drink of choice.
Hey man, he loves poker.
Does he really? I've not spoken to that tournament happened in September of 2006. I haven't seen Omar or spoken to him since then.
I probably see Omar at least once a year. I hang with Omar at least once a year.
Yeah.
More than that, mainly. Matter of fact, the guys I hang with in Atlanta, he's friends with, so we go play poker together.
Man, please give him a shot. I would love to have Omar on the show. Obviously, you'd have to put in that good word because I doubt he'll remember me. But
and he'll definitely do it because he needs to plug his new show out. He got a new show or movie out.
And so, well, I'll have to get a few more viewers, but maybe we can both help each other in that regard. But yeah, man, this has been an awesome time, man. Like I said before, I couldn't have anybody else as my first guest, so I hope you appreciate that and know how much you mean to me and have meant to me over the years, man. You've been a really good friend. We've obviously gone heart to heart on a lot of things, and you've always, whether you know it or not, man, you've been a big influence in terms of positivity because there were times when I've been down, man, but you always pick me back up in terms of, hey, we're going to make it one day. We're going to make it one day. And sometimes I needed to hear that,
Well, I'm glad I could be there, man. And like I said, you actually was inspiration to me. You kind of like was one of them people kind of gave me the drive because you, like I said, you like the little brother I never had.
Yeah, so never wanted it.
Can't let your little brother outdo you. So I'm like, right. You actually one of the people that made me would do a podcast.
Yeah, get out of here.
Yeah, I actually wanted to do a podcast. Me and you do a podcast, but you've been missing an act. Poker gets all his time, y'all.
I know. I disappear sometimes.
They don't fool with me no more.
It's not my favorite quality of myself. That'll wrap it for this one. It's been the first episode. Like I said, I've got a few kinks to work out, but I'm excited about what's in store. Got a few more interviews lined up and a few more I'd love to get. But this has been a lot of fun. We've got a lot more cool stuff planned, not just podcast stuff. Got some poker content coming out very soon. Who knows? Maybe I'll jump back in the domino game. It has been a while. It's not exactly like riding a bike. It does take a little bit of working out to get, but maybe that would be a fun thing to set up between us and a few friends. What do you think?
Sound good, man. And yeah, we can do some domino content.
That would be unbelievable, especially content analysis, breaking down some things over the years. And if there's any tournament, we might be able to visit that.
That's
so
the
much
idea
cool
I had
stuff.
with me and you. When
What'd
I
you
said
say?
the podcast.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
the idea I had about me and you doing a podcast, you know.
We still could. Well, let's talk about that because I think we could get some interesting folks, especially the guys from California, on, and I think that could be a good time as well.
Yeah, that would be.
But listen, if you like what you saw, hey, please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Leave whatever comments you have in the comments section. And don't be afraid to tell your friends about it because I'd love this thing to grow into something cool. But until next time, it is your buddy Domino Chris with my man Jerome Wooten somewhere on screen. There he is. And this has been the Real Domino Pod, and we will be glad to see you again next time. Take it easy, guys.
All right, guys.